Good evening and welcome to News Review. The European Anti-Fraud Office, OLAF, confirmed to GBC this week it completed an investigation into tobacco smuggling in the south of Spain and its link to the Gibraltar border. In a press statement, OLAF said one of the concerns raised in the report included the indications of the involvement of organised crime. The Gibraltar government welcomed the report from OLAF, saying it predates the Commission statement describing border checks by the Spanish government as disproportionate. It has published the European Commission's latest recommendations to Gibraltar and has challenged Spain to do the same.
OLAF says it can confirm it's completed its investigation into the increase in cigarette smuggling in the south of Spain. This investigation was initiated last August following a complaint concerning increased smuggling of cigarettes across the frontier between 2009 and 2013. OLAF says its investigation has raised a number of concerns regarding the link between a significant increase in the size of the Gibraltar market for cigarettes over the past 4 years and the subsequent increase in the size of the illicit market in southern Spain. The concerns, says the office, includes indications of organised crime. The OLAF final case report recommends the initiation of judicial proceedings. These have been sent to the Spanish General State Prosecutor and Gibraltar's Attorney General via the UK's office in Brussels. OLAF only carries out administrative proceedings, so now it's up to the UK, Gibraltar and Spain to decide what further action is necessary. OLAF says it won't publish its final case report and won't comment any further. The Gibraltar government has welcomed OLAF's report and the issues it raises, and has now passed the issue onto the Collector of Customs to take any action he sees fit. Number 6 says the report is confidential and isn't in a position to publish it, but believes the particular facts identified by OLAF point out to instances that could constitute criminal offences in Spanish territory, namely smuggling and money laundering through organised criminal gangs. It says the Spanish government hasn't wanted to draw attention to this, but rather is using the report for its own political purposes. It invites Spain to allow its law enforcement agencies to cooperate with Gibraltar and stand ready to counter organised crime. Number 6 says it's already taken major steps to do so, such as amending legislation, creating restricted zones, prohibiting the sale of tobacco near estates, and limiting the size of the Gibraltar market and limiting the amount of licenses available. It says the OLAF report predates the Commission statement from last week, describing border checks as disproportionate, and therefore cannot detract from its significance. The Chief Minister has said there's no similarity between the OLAF report and the spin in the Spanish media, which herald this latest development as a victory for the Spanish government and a justification for the border checks. Fabian Picardo says Spain now needs to do its bit to help coordinate the fight against organised crime. The government has published the letter from the European Commission dated 30th of July, which sets out further recommendations to the Gibraltar government on how to tackle smuggling. This letter recommends the development of risk-based profiling, exchange of information on smuggling, and daily cooperation between Gibraltar and Spanish authorities. Number 6 now challenges Spain to publish the recommendations made to them by the Commission.
Good evening and welcome to News Review. The European Anti-Fraud Office, OLAF, confirmed to GBC this week it completed an investigation into tobacco smuggling in the south of Spain and its link to the Gibraltar border. In a press statement, OLAF said one of the concerns raised in the report included the indications of the involvement of organised crime. The Gibraltar government welcomed the report from OLAF, saying it predates the Commission statement describing border checks by the Spanish government as disproportionate. It has published the European Commission's latest recommendations to Gibraltar and has challenged Spain to do the same. 5432. Meanwhile, the opposition asked the government for a copy of Olaf's report that has not been made public for operational reasons. Opposition leader Daniel Feetham made the request of Acting Chief Minister Gilbert Likudi, with whom Mr. Feetham says he had a useful conversation. He also offered the government whatever assistance the opposition could give. Daniel Feetham noted that the sensationalist reporting on this matter by the Spanish media contrasted sharply with their scant coverage of the European Commission's dismissal of Spain's complaints that Gibraltar was in breach of environmental law. He concludes this episode has served to show the importance of the GSD's outreach program in Spain, which aims to debunk politically motivated myths about the rock. Also this week, the local fishermen involved in an incident with the Guardia Civil off Europa Point were accused of illegally fishing red tuna by Spain's Environment Ministry. The Gibraltar government has responded saying this is an issue on which Spain could have easily worked with the Gibraltar authorities on if cross-border relations were normalized. However, it says a Royal Gibraltar Police investigation is underway and will therefore not comment any further on the matter.
According to reports in the Spanish press, the ministry has filed a formal complaint with the European Commission. It claims the alleged fishing is a serious breach of international fishing regulations and says Gibraltar doesn't regulate sport fishing and has no quota for red tuna, a heavily controlled species. The UK government is to issue a formal protest after Saturday's incident, where a Guardia Civil vessel attempted to exercise jurisdiction over a local fishing boat. The fishermen claim the Guardia Civil officer pointed a gun at them and that their boat was rammed by the Spanish vessel. This version of events was also quoted in the Gibraltar government's original press release earlier this week. The latest statement from Number 6 says the Gibraltar government values the environment very highly and will never condone any activity which is in breach of conventions which protect marine species. It says, however, this latest incident raises issues well beyond allegations of illegal fishing. The government says it will remain in close contact with the RGP, the Governor's Office and the Foreign Office in order to judge how to best calibrate the response to this incident once the police investigation is complete. However, it says it wouldn't be in the interests of the individuals involved or Gibraltar's wider interests for there to be further ill-informed speculation. In a similarly worded statement, the convent has also said it will not comment or speculate any further until the police investigation is complete. It says the Foreign Office protests all illegal incursions into British Gibraltar territorial waters, as well as concerns over dangerous behaviour by the Guardia Civil. It says it will take the matter up with Spain, subject to the outcome of the investigation.
Also this week, we learned there was no way Spain would take part in talks in which Gibraltar has the same status as Spain and the UK. That was according to Spanish diplomatic sources quoted in Europa Press. Meanwhile, the British government is said to be optimistic that ad hoc talks could be held soon. Spain is reportedly insisting that the tripartite formula continues to be a red line for Madrid and that if Gibraltar participates, so too must the local and regional competent authority for Spain. The government this week published the Chief Minister's direction to the Trade Licensing Authority that it issue no further retail or wholesale tobacco licenses. This follows the completion of a report by the EU's Anti-Fraud Office, OLAF, into tobacco smuggling in southern Spain and publication by the Gibraltar government of the European Commission's second letter outlining further recommendations for curbing the illicit tobacco trade.
The Chief Minister asserts that despite an express wish by the GSD government in 2002 that the issue of further tobacco licenses be strictly curtailed, these continued to be issued and have contributed to the significant increase in the number of cross-border purchases of tobacco. Fabian Picardo says he considers that it's not in Gibraltar's public interest for this practice to continue unabated, since it poses a serious reputational risk to Gibraltar and affects the day-to-day lives of people who live and work on the rock. Accordingly, he strongly discourages the Trade Licensing Authority from issuing any new retail tobacco licenses unless an existing license is surrendered or terminated. The same applies to wholesale licenses. Premises selling cigarettes from a vending machine and supermarkets are not included in the direction, although the Chief Minister points out that for an establishment to be considered a supermarket, it must have premises similar in nature and size to Morrison's, Eroski and Coviran. A convenience store is not exempt. Mr. Picardo encourages the authority to consider favourably any request to transfer an existing retail licence out of a housing or residential area, while acknowledging that the Trade Licensing Authority has the discretion to deviate from the directions. The Chief Minister says he would nevertheless expect it to keep at the forefront of its considerations the government's policy on what is in Gibraltar's public interest.
Gaming company 888 has become the first gaming license holder to merge with a Spanish gaming company after it was granted approval by the Supreme Court to merge with Apuesta Ganador Online. The merger was completed under the Gibraltar Cross-Border Merger Regulations 2010 and represents a significant milestone for the ROC as a world leader in the online gaming industry.
With cross-border relations suffering from Spanish political pressure, this merger demonstrates that where there's a will, there's a way. 888 and their lawyers, Isolas, have had to overcome a variety of legal challenges in order to introduce this merger under the cross-border merger regulations. But the result is a coup, not just for the companies involved, but for the industry and the jurisdiction. Isola's Christian Caetano said this is the first such ruling to have been granted by the Gibraltar courts involving a merger between a Spanish gambling license holder and a Gibraltar company, and is therefore hugely significant. His partner and brother, Stephen Caetano, says he has no doubt this will have a hugely positive impact on Gibraltar's legal, corporate and gaming sector. 888, who own a license under the operating subsidiary Cassava, have been around since 1997, and in 2013 yielded a revenue of just over $400 million. Speaking to GBC today, the gaming minister, Albert Isola, describes the merger as a sign of the way the industry was heading in Gibraltar, and added he expected more of the same in the near future.
It's interesting because it's actually a Spanish licence entity merging with a Gibraltar licence entity, and they've gone through all the court process to make that happen. So the system clearly works. There may be more following from it, I don't know. But look, there's an awful lot of activity within gaming companies. There have been a number of mergers in the smaller companies over the past months, and I expect there will be some more in the coming months. It's a time of consolidation, of trying to see how you can reduce and save costs. The pot gaming tax issue in the UK is still very much alive, and I expect that to continue. And you know, I talked to your colleagues on GBC News about a month ago about the fluctuation that we do have in the gaming community, and particularly with staff, and I fully expect that to continue. We're going to hear of redundancies, we're going to hear of opening up of jobs. That's normal. So I would expect that to continue.
And we'll be back with more of this week's news after the break.